It's the Luna Show.
Hello, you're watching The Luna Show, and right now you're about to meet Gerard H Gaskin, who is a photographer. He's been taking pictures for the last 20 years in the ballroom scene, and finally a book is coming out soon. I hope you guys enjoy this interview as much as I did. Hello. How are you? We are now with Gerard H Gaskin, a freelance photographer and a published working photographer.
Yeah.
How is that being recognized for your art?
Wow. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I know for me, being a young guy from Trinidad, grew up in the projects in Left Rack City. I never thought all about all those things. And all I wanted, it was try to get out of there, in a way. And so it's kind of an interesting thing, that somehow it was photography that kind of got me out there and in some ways to see the world. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very excited that, now I can do what I love. I'm passionate about photography. It's the thing that's kind of taken me all over the world. So I just love it. So.
Was that always your main art?
No, I was an illustrator first. Kind of like used to do cartoons, as a child.
Oh, that's interesting.
And got to photography really kind of late in a sense with photography. When I was maybe about 18 years old, a really good friend of mine had a real camera, and I had one of these little, nonsense point and shoot cameras. And I asked my mom for my birthday to give me like one of those, like what we call SLR cameras, and that was the beginning,
So in a way, you are sort of the official ballroom photographer because you kind of like we see you there and then you're not there. So how do you even get started with photographing the ballroom scene or even introduced to it?
It's interesting. I mean, I got introduced to the ballroom scene through a gentleman named Douglas Says.
I love him.
Douglas Says used to work for a photographer that I used to assist, and Douglas used to basically do the makeup. And there's a really famous makeup artist named Choirfire who used to be Whitney Houston's personal makeup artist. And Douglas got the job because Choirfire couldn't show up. And so in turn, that's how I met him. And, my boss told me, oh, man, you need to introduce yourself to this guy because this guy might, be able to teach you some stuff. Mm-hmm. And I went down with like maybe about 3 photographs. I had a little tiny little portfolio. And Douglas was trying to teach me how to do fashion photography. I used to just take pictures out in the streets and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, all right, I'm going to teach you fashion photography. We're going to learn fashion photography. And what he did was he would then hire the girls, mainly the femme queens, to photograph with me. And that's how I got introduced, through photographing femme queens. And then after that, then they kind of told me about the balls. He then told me about the balls. And then, then I went to my first ball, I think it was 1993. So you're saying now we're in 2013, so I was saying now 20 years later.
So those girls that you were photographing, not realizing who they were, was it like a Tracy Africa and
yeah, exactly.
and Danielle Revlon? And
right, exactly. You got the names.
Because I know he used to do projects with them, like their gowns and their dresses.
Yeah. I photograph. Gosh, I can throw out some names to you. Keisha, Ebony, Tanae, Pendavis.
Keisha and I used to go to high school together.
Oh wow, okay. Stephanie. I don't know what Stephanie. I think Stephanie's an Ebony too. Stephanie, Octavia, Danielle, Tracy. I mean, now we know them by their single names now.
Yeah.
Now we don't need to use their their house names anymore because there's so much those are the legends.
Yeah.
So
So how was knowing and seeing them at that time, and then later as time went by in the last 20 years, seeing how they grew as women, but also the legacy that they left behind? How do you see that?
Oh man, I think it's amazing. I mean, if you just say someone like Anjanae, I remember, I met Anjanae, gosh, it's got to be 1994, and to see Anjanae now is just amazing, and then watch, her, I would say, tranching through the ballroom scene, face, luscious body. I mean, winning major categories, major balls. It's tremendous.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So what I love about you is when you're shooting, you kind of stay out of the way, right? And so what's your genius behind that? Because you always, even though we see you there and then a really hot category comes on and you're there taking the photos, but we forget that you're there. So what's your genius behind that? How do you kind of move around?
Yeah, I think that the thing about it is about figuring out the space, right? You're there, but you're not supposed to be there, right? You're almost supposed to be like the fly on the wall, right? And you're supposed to get to the point, and you're supposed to hopefully get to a place that will then have the single image that almost defines ultimately what that category was, who the winner was, what was the highlights of that category, blah blah blah. So that's where I'm trying to find, and I'm moving around. I'm trying to kind of ditch and dodge and trying to find a place where it could have what I would consider this ultimate moment, right? So and you don't want to. It's not my place to be part of the performance. I'm just there to then document the performance. But I just don't say the video people who basically just stand behind the judges. I don't. Those images alone is not enough for me to take. So. Because
I've seen you in action in a way. Sometimes especially when it's movement, I see you kind of moving the way that they're moving. So it's almost like you're in it with them.
Right.
So in a way, you're voguing too.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing.
Well, that's the art behind you.
Exactly. That's the little, hopefully, the thing that separates me than, say, some other photographer who is trying to do it. And I think after a while, when you photograph it for a while, you learn the intricacy, you learn the pace of how things happen, and so you know how to maneuver yourself. When it's time to go to the bathroom, when people are getting ready, when it's time to photograph, a hot moment. You know when those things are, and so then you look for them, and that's what I'm there to do, is to look for those wonderful moments.
Did when you first entered the scene back in '93, and then through the years, at any time did the ballroom scare you? At some point, did you say, do you know what I'm saying? Was there something that happened that you said, "Oh wow, I have to"? Because for a little bit there, you also stopped going to balls.
Yeah.
Then you popped up again.
Yeah, but it wasn't because of being scared. It was because I started losing too many of my friends. It's right around the time Eric and Gerald passed away, and we're talking about maybe 99, 98, 2000. It was a hard time because for some reason, it was the time when even more other people. I could start. Danielle passed. It was you know.
Oh, so you needed to take care of yourself.
Yeah, because it was.
Well,
you
that's
know,
nice.
Those were the people that, and someone brought me into the scene, protected me into the scene. You know, Marcel Christian. I mean, Marcel Christian used to buy me film. I mean, I couldn't even afford to buy film to go to the balls, and Marcel Christian used to buy me film. So, I mean, those are the people that died, you know. So that was me kind of going, you know, let me get myself together. Let me, you know, because the other thing is you want to have a certain amount of joy. I mean, that's what the balls are about.
Right.
And I mean, and you know, you don't want to go to a ball and start just thinking about memories either. Also, right? So.
Well, I like that you said friends. Your friends.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, for real, Marcel Christian.
Yeah.
I used to go.
He was a wonderful man.
Yeah. I used to go. He used to work at the New Rican Cafe. And he used to do costumes down there, and I would go down there. I would show him my pictures, and he says, "Gerard, blah blah." I said, "Man, I'm broke, man. I don't think I'm going to the next boys. How much you need?"
Oh,
and he
sweet.
would pull out, you know, $40 or whatever, and you know, I'd buy, you know, 10, 15 rolls of film, and I had enough film to go to.
Where you used to go to B&H or?
Yeah, I used to. No, actually, I used to go to Autorama a lot
Okay.
more at that time because they used to have a deal on this one kind of film that I really liked. That was only $2.25, where at B&H they used to. I think it was like $3.50, and we're like, shit, we're talking about film costing $3.50. That's a crazy price, right? Where things now are even more expensive.
So what do you think about that, like now in the digital world versus film? Because I still love shooting with film. How do you feel about that?
Ooh, that's a really, really good question.
Because quality is different.
Yeah, quality is clearly different. There's no doubt about that part. You know, it's interesting because say maybe around 2005, I started shooting the balls digitally. And of course, then I was trying to then figure out how do I then get the same quality that I did when I was shooting film. And it's pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
So I just let it go and I go somewhere else, basically.
But even in movement too, like the way the image looks with voguing with digital is way different.
Much
The film captures it much more beautifully.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That blur thing, digital really doesn't do well.
Right.
Like film does.
So tell us about your book. I know, Legendary Inside the House Ball Scene. I know you've been working on this for 20-something years.
Wow, I tell you.
And I'm excited. Congratulations.
Oh, gee, man, you don't even know. I think it's pretty crazy. I think in 2010, 2009, I really was like, all right, I need to do a book. And I just didn't know what to do. I started showing it to different people, different publishing houses, and every publishing house I went to basically shut me down.
Really?
No, you know, we don't know who's gonna buy it. You know, blah blah blah. You know, people don't really buy books with black people in it. Blah blah blah. You know, I mean, I got so many things. Then I got the idea that, all right, we'll do your book if you can raise $20,000. I'm like, $20,000? How the hell am I gonna find $20,000?
Well, you got to raise money to make a book for yourself?
Exactly.
Really? I didn't know that.
So in turn, I remember because then I went to Michael Robeson. And I said, Michael, man, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to raise some money. You know, do you know some people? Blah, blah, blah. You know, maybe I can go to some organization, but whatever. I couldn't get the money. Then I entered a contest, and I got this residency, to basically lay my book out. And I laid my book out. I designed it myself. I learned InDesign, blah blah blah, and I got it done. And then I had the book. Then I started shopping it again. Then I got some lukewarm people who were like, oh, maybe this is good, but we just don't know how to market it. We just, you know. And so I was like, you know, I'm going to try to do it myself. I'm gonna try to think. And the cool thing is like in the last maybe 2 years or so, there's this website called Kickstarter, where you can go on Kickstarter and you can basically pitch an idea, and you can raise money, $50, $100 from different people. So I was going towards the Kickstarter route, and then all of a sudden, I saw this contest that Duke University has, and it was called the First Book Prize. And they basically every 2 years they give this prize where they literally do whoever any photographer who's kind of doing a documentary project, they'll publish their book for them, and anybody from the United States or Canada. And in September of last year, I entered the contest. And then in November, I found out that I was a finalist. It was actually the week before Thanksgiving, and I was like, wow, oh Jesus Christ. And I was saying, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that everybody knows that I was a finalist, even if I don't win. And then they said, oh, we want you to send some photographs. If you can send some photographs, it'd be great. So I sent them some photographs, and I have a little part-time job. I work at this little place called Cipriani's, and I'm at Cipriani's, and I have my little phone in my little back pocket, and my phone goes off, and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, I'm gonna get fired because my phone went off. And it was making noise. So of course I didn't quickly put it on silent. And I look down on the phone and I look and it says Durham, North Carolina. I was like, oh my God, Durham, North Carolina. Oh my God. All right, Gerard, calm down. So I run downstairs to the bathroom. I hear the message. It says, can you please call me, blah, blah, blah. My name is Alexa Delworth, blah, blah, blah. All right, okay, all right. So the next morning, I call her up. Her name is Alexa Dilworth. Sorry, and she basically runs the program or the prize that I won. And she wasn't there. And I left a message. At the same time, right around that same time, my mother was really, really sick, and my mother had like basically terminal cancer, and then she called me up. I think I was about to go to the hospital to see my mother, and she told me, and man, I basically just, in the same space that I'm in right now, I just basically started crying. I mean, it's just amazing to you do 20 years of your life, and it'll really happen, it's gonna happen. It's so they told me I won, and boom, so that's what happened. And so now it's just, now the ball is now kind of like running through, like everybody's, like I'm getting this person and I have to need to get contact with this, and so now it's happening. And they've given me a date of November 8th or 9th for the book to actually come out. So November of this year, 2013, the book will be out. And it's called, where actually I started out, but this is, like I said, title number 3. First it started out as Walking for Tens, and then now...
Oh, that's an interesting one.
and then they didn't really like the title, and then we went back and forth with the title, and now it's called Legendary Inside the House and Ballroom Scene. So, like I said, it'll come out with Duke University Press in November 2013.
So it's gonna be a nice glossy book?
Yeah. Well, at this point, it's interesting, because I had one meeting so far with the woman who's the designer of the book, and it's amazing because...
No creases. I don't like when they crease a photo.
No, there won't be any creases. But she's really, really famous. She basically did Richard Avedon's books, And for me, you know,
He's one of my idols.
right, you know, to have the person who's done 5 of Richard Avedon's books designing your book, you basically, you know.
Also, that's great.
You
You know,
let them do you, and you let them do it. You know, you don't
right.
get in the way.
You
so
gave her
much.
ideas, though, right?
Yeah, definitely. You know.
So who
I
knew
did-
that's such a process for books, though?
Oh my God, you do not even know the amount of stuff. Like, so you just think, I found out in December that I won.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't announce that I won till January 15th, 16th, somewhere around that point. Then sometime in February was the first really meeting that they had, you know, with the designer and the woman right here in New York. And then we're now starting to discuss layout in a really, really heavy way. Who else is gonna write stuff for the book? Right now I have the woman who actually was the judge, a really famous African American kind of historian, art and photography historian. Her name is Deborah Willis Thomas, and she will write an introduction. And then I have Frank Leon Roberts, who I had to really, I'm so happy, but I had to fight for him to, you know, be part of it, because very, very early on, I met Frank. Gosh, it got to be maybe about
He's one of my sons.
2000, right? And I was like, Frank, if I ever do something, you're gonna write something for this book, and you know, then he's gonna write a forward for the book. So
That's great.
you know, God knock on wood, it's gonna be a good thing. So, you know, and now they're trying to start promoting. They're about to then start, you know, doing like press releases, who is gonna be, and all this kind of stuff. They have to do it.
I've been seeing articles online.
Almost two seasons before the book comes out, because then what happens is then magazines and so on and so forth can then put it in there by September or October for the November deadline, or November release, basically.
That's great. So the lesson with that is stick to your passions,
Yeah.
because you never know where it's gonna go, right?
No,
I mean, 20 years of your life and these photographs.
Yeah.
So, and it's happening now.
Man, it's amazing. It's an amazing. You know, sometimes I'm completely. It's pretty amazing. I'm just shocked and excited and happy at the same time.
So I know in the last 20 years you've seen the scene go from, you know, in the 90s it was a whole different scene pretty much. Through now, what are your views on the ballroom scene today, or the contrast of both?
You know, it's funny. I had this same conversation. I was hanging out with some people. I don't want to be dropping names, but I was hanging out with some ball legends. I would use the word, and we were having this conversation. To me, like anything else, everything is gonna change.
Yeah.
Young people, new people, people with energy are gonna come into a scene and change it however they want to change it, and in turn, it's their energy that's gonna ultimately do it. Whoever, whatever, however it is, bad or good, you know, it's about the scene to almost police itself, right? So I think for me, it's just to be in the scene and then just see what happens and see how the development of it. I like development. I mean, I like changes. We can't keep
everything the way.
right? And you can't reminisce either. You know, it's great. Yes, you can do some reminiscing, but in reality, you gotta keep moving.
Do you think that elders give a hard time to the
new kids?
I mean, in a way, they did that to us when we were coming out.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
So then we're doing it now to, well, some of us are.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I kind of just leave it alone.
It's interesting about that, because there are some elders that I talk to, who, gave a hard time to say that, I would say my generation, right, the 90s generation. So, and they were like the 70s and 80s generation. And, now it's 2013, there's a new crop, and, they got to do their thing. and they will do their thing, so
Right. So tell us about your career as a photographer, because I know we love your, ballroom photos, but you've done a million other things. So
yeah.
tell us about that. And did you go to school for photography?
Yeah, I went to school for photography. I actually went to 2 different schools. I went to a junior college first, Queensborough Community College first, out in Queens, because I originally grew up in Queens, in Corona Regal Park area, a place called Left Rack City. And then after leaving Queensborough Community College, I went to Hunter College. There's a really, really famous African American photographer named Roy D. Carava, who taught at Hunter College, and he had like maybe 4 or 5 books out. Him and say Gordon Parks are like almost like equals in a way. This guy did a book with Langston Hughes. I don't know if you guys know who Langston Hughes is, but he's a famous writer and poet and stuff like that. So this guy goes way back. So I learned photography from those guys. There's another gentleman named Jules Allen who taught at Queensborough Community College, and then he told me that I should go and study with Roy. So that's how and then I worked with about, I don't know, maybe 5, 10 different photographers. I worked as an assistant for them. After I got out of school, then I started assisting a lot. Cause
that's always key to assist.
Yeah, you need to learn how people learn how to light. People, you need to learn how technique.
Yeah.
You need to know better technique. So yeah, I assisted. I assisted about 5 or 6 different photographers at that point. Yeah. So that's how I learned from school, then assisting.
So how does a photographer stay, publishing?
Oh man.
Well, especially since you do photojournalism. But
Yeah. I think like anything else. It's funny because when I go and I speak to classes now, I talk to them about the fact that you need to stay at the tip of the sword. And when I mean at the tip of the sword, you need to stay current as much as possible, right? You need to know what the new technique is. It's like at the same time, you need to understand digital to the maximum, right? You need to know, programs like, I don't know, Capture One.
Raw.
Or RAW or whatever, right? You need to know how to then use a RAW file. How do you then open a RAW file? How do you,
That's hard.
Right. There's how do you then manipulate color the right way? So there's a lot of stuff. And so in turn, to me, that's how you stay current, right? And then you study. I at times will go to Barnes & Noble or something like that and just look through magazines to see what technique is being used now, right? What the magazines are thinking about, what kind of color are they looking at, blah, blah, blah. So, you have to stay, that's how you stay in this business long.
Right.
Because you have to stay current.
So would that be the advice that you tell upcoming photographers out there?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things. I would tell them, first of all, follow your passion.
Of course.
And then work hard. Because it's about hard work. No one's gonna give you anything. You have to go out there and work really, really hard and push the boundaries and try to figure out who you are and why you want to be a photographer. Also, and just do it.
Right. So tell us a little bit about some of the photos you have here.
Oh wow, okay. I will.
I see Whitney here.
Yeah. I think the book will be a lot of these pictures. So like here's a photograph I think of Sanaya in the House of Ebony, and actually if you look, Sanaya was being called out by Ashley. Ashley Icon to come on Vogue, and I think it's 2003, 2004, I think, at the Lab in Brooklyn, and to me it's a perfect like backdrop of just faces of ball participants and ball, and then Sanaya is giving it, look, I got these fancy boots. I'm not coming out on the floor. That's actually what she was saying. So it said all of those things for me, you know. That's just one.
I love how everybody's supporting her, like holding her up and.
Yes. Here's another picture. Is one of my all-time favorite pictures. It's a photograph of the House of Latex. No, not the House of Latex. The House of Extravaganza. Woo! I'm sorry. At the Mock Ballroom, I think 1996, 95.
Oh yeah, 96.
Somewhere.
I was supposed to walk in that production.
Okay.
And I didn't want to. I didn't want to take my shirt off.
Oh, is that what it is? And it was Faces a House. And it came out in this almost like a sauna, right? And it was smoke everywhere. It was to me, it was a highlight. You talk about, you know, when you think about the highlights of you coming to the balls, that was one of my highlights. I mean, it was a tremendous ball moment,
right?
You know. So yeah,
I remember that one, and I remember that one of Gerald too.
Yeah. This is Gerald.
He loved that hat.
Oh yeah.
I miss him.
Who was, you know, a really amazing character. You know, and Gerald was one of the ballroom people who would really be political. I used to go to, say, ACT UP marches in the city, and Gerald was the only ball person I used to see at those ACT UP marches, and we're talking early 90s.
Right.
So another, I would say, a tremendous person. And then if you just think of, like, you know, modern day time, right? Say you didn't think of Giselle, you know, getting ready in the bathroom.
That was for the latex ball.
Latex ball in the bathroom in Roseland. I think, oh gosh.
2008 or 9?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Who, you know, I remember meeting Giselle, oh gosh, maybe 2002 maybe. I got this magazine called what was the name of this magazine? I think it's Our World or OneWorld. I think it's OneWorld is the name of the magazine, to do a layout about the balls. And we were gonna do basically like a fashion shoot. And Giselle was one of the
I think I remember that.
Right, that we...
It's on your website.
Yes. That we got to thing. And like I said, I had no clue who she was. And actually, we hired RR to be basically a model scout and to get the models. So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, now I'm doing this whole portrait series, and, like, you know, you see Whitney. I don't know, is Garçon? What's
Garçon.
Garçon.
Comme Garçon.
Yeah. You know, and
these beautiful.
These are the new photographs that I basically shot in 2012.
So you like doing it like this, or do you like the action photos?
You know,
or it's just part of your evolution with the ballroom scene?
I think that's what it is. It's much more of an evolution. I think early on I wanted to document. Now there's so many kids who are documenting the balls now. You know, I mean, so I kind of try to step back from that and try to make different pictures that, you know, no one's seen, you know. So to me, that's my motivation more than now documenting the balls. Because like I said, it's even cooler because now I think there are a lot of young kids who are ballroom kids who are then documenting the balls. You know, I mean, Caesar with House and, you know.
Well, it's really interesting because ballroom is not a documented community. If you kind of try to research the history of it, it's really hard to find that. Yes. So now you have a lot of people documenting ballroom. So I think it's great.
Oh no, I think it's tremendous.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I mean, to me, you know, now with all the shows on the web and all the videos on the web, I mean, even your show. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was like, I called when I found out I won this grant. I said, I'm gonna be on the Luna Show. I said it. I said, we're gonna promote this book on the Luna Show. And, you know, I mean, I think it's just amazing that and I think that's part of the evolution of the culture, right, and of the scene itself. So it's just brilliant stuff. So yeah.
Well, cool. Is there a message that you would like to let the young viewers or just anyone that's watching this and either wants to be a photographer or want to get into the ballroom scene? What will you tell them?
Wow, that's a really good question. I mean, I think for a person, it's interesting because I talked to, there's about 3 or 4 different photographers that I talked to who are, who are from the scene, and I talked to them. I talked to them about making sure that they learn technique, right? It's very, very important to learn how to take pictures and learn how to take pictures the right way. So I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that you really need to just, allow yourself to see what the scene is ultimately going to give, right? And I'm just so happy that now, I mean, that of course the book is going to come out, but I'm also happy that, sorry, that we're going to have something that is amazing, and that the book will be, the legacy of the 90s and the thousands, right? And that we can now look back and say, oh wow, I remember this, and oh man, you remember this? Oh wow, did you see this? Oh man, I never seen this. Hopefully that will be the feel of what this book is going to ultimately be, and it'll be something that hopefully that the community will embrace and be happy with, So.
Well, thank you for this interview. I mean, I love your work. I've always told you that.
Thank you.
The day I met you, and I think this is great.
Thank you, as always.
All right.
And like I said, I wanted to do the Luna show.
Thank you for that.
All right. Bye.
All right.
It's the Luna Show.